Yeah,
who's a general physician.
Yeah.
Now, Doc, I'll be coming to you on depression because this is a really important conversation that we really have to have.
Yes.
But I want to start with you, Samuel.
Yes.
I want you to tell us where it all started.
Okay. I started back to year 2004, but actually it started in my teens. So when I was young, I could become rebellious in the house. Then my parents thought I was just a naughty boy. But after, when I was 21, it broke out after a lot of suffering. But I think it could be better if they knew or they are aware about the problem, they could have assisted me before, so I could not get into this problem. I could get some abdominal pain. I could frequent in and out of general hospital, but they could give me the long medication. They never tested me or to understand I have maybe more serious and more problem that need more attention. But actually what I can say as a bipolar or mental illness, it started as a physical problem. So because I could feel fatigue all the time, I'm sick, I don't want to do anything, I'm in the house locking myself, I neglected all my daily routine, like taking, bathing, change of appetite, sometimes I don't eat. So they thought I just are not, but it is just a red flag that I'm suffering from a mental illness or depression or bipolar.
Which year did you say the correct diagnosis was done?
After, like, I took like more 6 years, and then I could frequent hospital, but they misdiagnosed me and giving me the medicine. So I suffered a lot without knowing. But when I came to Madari Mental Hospital, that is when I was done the proper test and I started my medicine. Then I started with the first medication, first medication drugs, which has a lot of side effect, because I could not afford the second typical, which you can tolerate the side effect.
We'll get to the medication later, but I want to take you back to your teen years, because you say that is when is where it all started. Was there a trigger, or what triggered it?
Yes, there was a trigger. Maybe at home there was difficult at home between my parents. They have no good relationship. Actually, when it broke up is when I lost my grandfather. So I went to that, and so much life stresses event that really triggered. But when it broke out is when I lost my grandfather, who used to educate me. So that's when I say now that stress triggered my first occurrence.
Okay, I'll be coming back to you, Samuel. Dr. I want to rope you in the conversation now. Especially, there's a comment I'm seeing just now from one of our viewers. He's saying it all begins in schools and homes. And for Samuel's case here, we can tell it started at home, especially after he lost his grandfather. That is what he says. But even before we get to, he's also spoken about the misdiagnosis. It took 7 years for the correct diagnosis to be done. Before we get to the series of misdiagnoses, what is depression?
Depression is a very serious mental health problem, and it is associated with feeling of just feeling low, feeling like you're not interested in day-to-day activities, and those are the key things. But besides that, you may have other symptoms such as somatic symptoms like what is described, just having a headache, being unable to sleep, having issues with concentration, having a poor memory, having difficulty just doing usual activities that you usually do. And over time, you may realize that you start gaining weight, or you start losing appetite, and you start becoming small. But the weight gain is more critical. In children and adolescents, the symptoms could be even different. Like some of these children who have issues in school, for instance, who are on suspension because of being unruly, being bullies in school, that could be one of the symptoms of depression in children. So OCD, the obsessive compulsive disorder, ADHD, the attention deficit disorders, where children are just hyperactive, and conduct disorder, the ones that we have children who are look like they're rebellious. Those are some of the symptoms, especially in childhood, and we need, as a society, to know that these are things that can start way earlier. We don't have to wait until someone is 21, like the way Samuel was, to have a proper diagnosis. Yes, Grace.
Why does it take so long for the proper diagnosis, as you said, Daktari? Because even apart from Samuel here, other guys that I've interacted with, even in my line of duty as a reporter, they say they actually themselves didn't know they had depression. They were suffering from depression. So if you yourself, you're not aware you have depression, so how do you get to know you have it? And why is it that even with the doctors, with the medics, it takes too long for a correct diagnosis?
Yes, Grace, that's a good question. It takes long because not all doctors are psychiatrists. I am not a psychiatrist. I'm a general physician. And these patients do not go straight to the psychiatrist because they don't know that they are depressed. They start with a clinical officer or a general physician or a general practitioner, and by the time they land in a psychiatrist's doorstep, it has taken years, sometimes months, for the proper diagnosis. The other reasoning behind why the diagnosis takes long is because the symptoms are not exactly specific for depression or for mania, for instance. Some of the symptoms are also symptoms of other medical problems, like hypothyroidism and other hormone imbalances. They could also be just general symptoms like abdominal pain, headache, what we call general malaise. So you go to a GP's clinic and the GP says general malaise or just tiredness and says you need to go and rest. So that's where the misdiagnosis comes in. And you're given a sick off, and you keep being given sick offs to rest. And your employers are wondering, why is this person always on off? Yeah.
Okay. Doc, you've explained why it takes long for the diagnosis, and there's something you've said that the person who's depressed does not actually know they are depressed. And I presume it was the same case for you, Samuel, then at least, and also the same case for your family and perhaps friends.
That's why I was telling you, it's good maybe from the family setup, when they see the children are trying to manifest or they are behaving this way, they don't just try to say that they are naughty or they are rebellious. It's good to understand them and try to help them. Yes.
And of course, that's where awareness comes in, right?
Yes, that is
mental health. I want to take you back again to those years before the diagnosis was done. Maybe what are some of the challenges that you did face, perhaps before you went to Mathare Hospital, mental hospital?
Okay. Before I went to Mathare Hospital, I could relapse every year. And during the relapse, I could find myself in so much encounter that I was not aware. Like there's a time I was caught in a church. I had gone there, then I tried to sit down, I was picking a handbag, then I was arrested. So I could get myself into trouble with the police all the time because I may go to a place that I was not supposed to go. I could go at night, may go to someone's place which, okay, me I'm thinking is okay, but actually I'm sick. So I could get so much me in trouble. Okay, I could have a lot of, even in our village, they could now see me as a threat. When they see me in the neighborhood, they could learn I want to harm them. So those are some of the challenges that I went through. So even I could pass in our area. Then you could see when the little children, they are running away from me. So I could feel bad because me, actually, I was not that bad. But they could run away, so they could stigmatize myself. So much challenges. When I could go to somewhere like in a church, like to a Catholic church, they could not let me to receive the Holy Communion because they say I'm sick, I'm not fit. So society, I think, has something to do when they see someone with a similar case like me, not to stigmatize them, it's just to help them understand that is a problem like any other, or she is suffering from something that can be helped, actually not to criminalize. When I got in trouble with the police station, they could beat me. Maybe you have gone to a market to have picked something that you don't need it, you are beaten. You, like that time I was in the church, I wanted to sit. Actually, they thought I was still in a handbag, but in my mind, I wanted to join them and worship together, but they never understand that one. So I was thinking the best fight, and if we want to fight the fight against mental illnesses, that is depression being one of the mental illnesses, is starting to sensitize the society, to educate them. Ukiona mtu na hapo nje akiwa na mental problem, don't criminalize, just help. Like police station, when you go there, you are beaten. They think you are bad, you are criminal. They think they also have police to learn most mental illnesses, to understand, to be able, or they have a psychiatrist who is a policeman, so that they get the case, because we suffer a lot.
Yeah.
They could even not combine me with other criminals who they can beat me, because when you are there, you talk big things. How much money you have, how you want to be the president, you become hyper. So you are beaten all over, from all right, left, circle, and the center. Yes.
You've mentioned about the money and how you want to be the president, and I'll be coming back to that.
Okay.
But there's something you were telling me during the break about how you went to this church for a vigil, and you thought the worshippers were worshipping you.
Yes. Okay.
How so?
Yeah. Okay, when you become bipolar and you are hyper, you think you have a lot of power beyond you. You think you are small Jesus, or the problem, or actually you are the one who have been worshipped. So you have that special kind, you feel you are special than the way you ought to be. You think I'm the best, I'm that actually the Jesus. So you feel you can even do things that they are, as if they are waiting for you, as if they have been waiting for you years, they have been playing. You have answer to everything. And even you have the next world, spiritual world they are talking about, or what they are praying about. Yes.
Doc, how do you explain that? At some point, Samuel thought he was Jesus. He's the one people are praying
Yeah,
to.
you know, he has bipolar 1 disorder, and in this disorder, bipolar has a mix. Generally, bipolar has a mix of depression and the other a hyper state called mania. So in his condition, he tends to go towards the mania, and manic episodes are where he feels like he's a great person, he feels like he's on top of the world. In fact, he can even imagine that Obama is coming to the country just to say hi to him.
Send me to Obama, I have appointment with Obama. I could actually and see them meeting together, and me having all the problems, economically and the world problems. It wasn't.
So it's more like the opposite of depression, where now you go to the other level and you're really high. There's pressure of thought. You feel like things should come out quickly. You don't want to waste time, you know, and you feel like some people are too slow, you know, for you. You just want to be on top. And it is a medical condition, and some of the reasoning behind it is because the chemicals in the brain, they tend to be a bit unbalanced, and so that imbalance is not good. And so the medicines that doctors use, the psychiatrists and other doctors, help to balance those chemicals in the brain, so that you come back to your senses, essentially, because he is out of the world, of this world. He's out of his senses. And he feels that things are too slow for him. So he is in a world that is fast, extremely fast.
I'm actually a world of my own.
A world of his own, actually. He wants to meet Obama, he wants to meet President Kenyatta. Doc, you mentioned the symptoms when you were in your opening statement, but I want us to go back to that, especially because now we're seeing like there's a difference between bipolar and depression. Bipolar, you're on the high. That's why you want to do, you know, extraordinary things. And depression, it's like you're on the lower bit.
Bipolar means two poles. So bipolar means a little bit of depression and a little bit of the hyper side, the mania. So it's divided into two. On one side, the depression is more prominent. On the other side, the hyper side, or the high one, is more prominent. While on depression, what we call depression is just what medically is called major depression. And it's not just the usual sadness where maybe you failed an exam once and you go to your room if you're a university student and you're like, oh my goodness, I've failed again, and you can't have your supper. But the next morning you wake up and you collect yourself and you're back to where you started and you're back to normal. Depression has to last for at least 2 weeks, and it has to be consistent feeling of low, feeling sad, feeling hopeless, and having no interest for the usual day-to-day activities. Those are the key things in depression. Yeah, and it's not just a one-off thing where maybe you lost a job and you felt sad, and then after that you're back to normal. No, it has to be sustained low feeling, and that low feeling is mostly noticed by other people. In fact, you're not the first one. I presume you're not the very first person who noticed you are feeling low. It's other people who noticed, oh, what's wrong with Samuel? So it's the society we live in, the community we live in, needs to understand what a depressed person goes through and what a manic person goes through.
What are the causes? Because he did say at least the trigger for him was the loss of his grandfather. And yes, loss indeed is actually one of the main triggers of depression. But what are some of the other causes? You know,
really, the medical world has not pinpointed specifically that this is the cause. But we have lots of underlying factors, or what we call risk factors. And some of the risk factors are genetic. For instance, if your father or mother or a close relative was having the depression, it's more likely that you will also have depression. The other risk factors besides the genetics are to do with life events. Like we've had the disaster that happened in Ethiopia the other day. Those families need to have proper counseling so that they do not have they do not go into depression. Such major life events can be a trigger. Other things can be just not being in the right environment, like not being not going to different places. I've seen people who travel to a new country where everything has changed, things are new, they have to have a new way of life, and then they cannot adapt to the new environment, and then they just relapse into, they go into depression. And depression doesn't occur all the time. It can come in relapses, where this year you're fine, next year you have an issue.
Okay. Samuel, let me come back to you, especially because we are mentioning President Obama, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and I think right now it's probably just me and Daktari who know why we're mentioning the two. Just tell us why.
Okay. Before I go to that, let me go back some point. You see, the time now I want to meet all these people, you are hyper. Then you become to the depressive mode, because when you realize or you come to assess those who are not reality, I can't meet them. All in the process of telling people, because you go telling people, I'm going to Obama, send me, I want to be MP, I want to bring these changes to this environment, you have a lot of ideas. You can't, when you become depressed, everything turns the other way around. Now you are down. You feel you are immense guilt because for the things that you have been doing when you are raw, like even sometimes you remove the clothes, you go naked, then you realize that was doing is wrong. You think of contemplating suicide. Thinking I was going to Uhuru Park, I was going to airport to meet Obama and people okay, when you go telling your friends that way, they cheer, they encourage you, so they make it more motivating, and now they make you, it is true. So like fuel in you. Then all of a sudden, when you tell you have a bank and you owe a lot of money in the bank, even you can walk in the bank and think, this is all my money, I don't know what to do, even I don't have use of them. So, and you don't have anything in the pocket, when you are at that time, now you become helpless. Hopelessness, you become so down. Now, that's when you are depressive. You think of contemplating suicide. And that is now when you come to real. I think even when you become depressive is when you start healing. I think it's the start of starting becoming to reality. Because when you are hyper, no matter how much you are told, you can't understand, you cannot listen to people. But when you are depressive, at least now you may start thinking, you'll accept it to take your medicine, you'll accept it to do you'll accept it to see the doctor, you will allow yourself to eat, you accept things.
Sure.
But when you are this one, you talk so fast, you exchange, you don't have flow, you can be talking to this person, you can be talking to this person, but also it has a very negative side for committing suicide. Like me, I thought of committing suicide like 4 times.
4 times.
Yes. So when I think of Obama and Uhuru, is when you think, it's when I'm sick. It's just when I'm bipolar and I'm hyper.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are 2 things he said, Doc. Suicide, which we'll be getting into, we'll be dwelling on that. But he also mentioned something about his friends, sort of like motivating him to meet Obama and President Kenyatta. And you know, as a friend, you know this is most likely not possible, but you're here telling him, yes, it will happen. Is it okay? Because on one end, you would argue perhaps you're massaging his ego, and he really feels good when you tell him that, but you know it's not true.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Or you are hopeless and you need, instead of helping you to take you to hospital or how you can take the medicine, oh, you are meeting, you can't. Say hi to Obama. When are you bringing for Obama? Yeah, Obama meets people. Who is waiting for such things?
Yeah, so it's not okay, honestly. And that's why I keep saying it's a societal issue. We need to deal with it not just as doctors. We need to deal with it as a society and come up with acceptable norms. You know, when someone is feeling unhappy and doesn't appear at the office, they come with a sick of, the HR will just say, okay, yeah, they were unwell. But if this continues consistently, they need to sit down as a HR, as the management of the office, and find out what is the problem and probably send this person to now a proper doctor, you know. And as I've said, doctors misdiagnose it. So what I suggest today is friends, relatives, whatever, they need to have the information so that they are able to know how to respond, and not just to lead on somebody to his depressive moods and his manic episodes, but to be the guide that will direct the person to the right solutions, who are either counselors, doctors, you know. And there's a lot of treatments for depression and manic episodes, which I guess we'll go through.
Sure,
yeah.
we will. Okay.
Yeah.
Just Kidogo Samuel, before I get back to you, he mentioned suicide. He's attempted suicide 4 times.
Yeah.
But before we even talk about his case and other cases that we've witnessed, especially in the recent past, this week or last week, there's a class 2 pupil who committed suicide. Why? I mean, how do you even think of contemplating suicide in class 2? I know you did say it could be genetic, so perhaps that could have been a contributing factor for that pupil and the others that we've witnessed. But how does a class 2 pupil just think of even contemplating
class 2?
Suicide?
It's that's a very young pupil, probably around 9 years or something like that. At that tender age, honestly speaking, it's possible that the child can have other psychiatric conditions and not only depression. But depression is a major factor. And as I have said earlier, these are kids who may probably have started behaving some kids may start behaving funny, but the relatives don't, the parents don't notice. Like for instance, a child may be unruly or behave badly, start lying, and all that could just be a pointer that there is an underlying problem. And if parents don't act on it, the child may feel that the parents are not good, so the child starts rebelling on the parents. That rebelliousness, and running away from home sometimes happens. All that combined with depression can lead to suicide. Yeah, it can happen even on a young person like that. It's just that even I am surprised about how would the child know much about how to commit suicide. But the thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, are the key in unraveling this. Because honestly speaking, before someone commits suicide, they already have started thinking. And many people attempt suicide and don't manage to commit the suicide. In fact, it happens more in girls who just attempt to commit suicide because maybe their boyfriend has left them or something like that. But boys are more adept at finishing it. So we must watch the boys. The one who you're talking about, was it a girl or a boy?
It was a boy.
Yeah.
It was a boy.
Girls can attempt the suicide, but they are not as good as finishing that because they are girls. Boys are more ruthless when it comes to being suicidal, and research has shown that boys can actually commit suicide more than the girls.
Okay.